Every fall, the technology sector braces for the most relentless, highly predictable hardware launch cycle in the industry, the annual Apple hardware event. For years, the absolute ceiling of that product lineup has been defined by a strict dual flagship system. According to the latest roadmap reports, the upcoming cycle will maintain this foundation with the release of the iPhone 18 Pro and the iPhone 18 Pro Max. But those same roadmaps show a structural gap appearing directly above the Pro Max model. Supply chain leaks indicate Apple is preparing a third premium device to fill this exact position, though sources are deeply split on whether this device is an Ultra or a Fold. This naming discrepancy outlines two entirely divergent philosophies for the future of mobile computing. The iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max will serve as the safe, highly refined iterations of the existing lineup. In Apple's existing hardware language, the Ultra designation is reserved for extreme use functionality, a pattern established by their rugged wearables. Applying this logic to a phone points toward a heavy reliance on specialized aerospace-grade materials to achieve maximum physical resilience. It also requires pushing the optical hardware, specifically sensor dimensions and zoom ranges, far past normal consumer limits. This approach retains the familiar rectangular slab form factor. The way a user physically holds and interacts with a device remains exactly the same. The demographic narrows to professionals working in extreme sports, in remote exploration, and harsh filmmaking environments. An Ultra device refines the traditional smartphone design to its absolute limit, perfecting a known form rather than inventing a new one. The alternative path outlined in the roadmap reports is an iPhone Fold. Making a foldable device requires abandoning the rigid slab design entirely, splitting the device geometry and pivoting outward. Opening the physical hardware forces a reimagining of the user interface, separating the expanded display into segmented work zones to allow for true dual-screen multitasking. Because this route introduces massive engineering friction, primarily hinge durability and display creasing, it remains highly experimental. The source reports explicitly note that Apple will debut a device, whatever it might call it. That specific admission of uncertainty is exceptionally rare for leaks occurring this deep into a development cycle. This suggests Apple is simultaneously stress-testing manufacturing yields and evaluating market demand for both structural options right up to the final production deadline. Keeping the final form factor ambiguous points to Apple's active evaluation of the risks involved in their first major structural deviation in over 10 years. The debate over the exact naming convention distracts from the core macroeconomic strategy in play. This timeline chart maps Apple's premium flagship tiers over the last decade. It shows how the company is expanding its market footprint by introducing a higher pricing and prestige tier above its current lineup. Establishing a consumer product tier above the Pro Max forces competing manufacturers to reevaluate the absolute limits of their own top-end models. This creates a class of super premium consumer, a demographic that typically remains insulated from standard tech market fluctuations. The report frames these choices as visionary horizons, indicating that the iPhone 18 cycle establishes the trajectory for Apple's hardware roadmap into the future. The upcoming event will mark the moment the absolute ceiling for a flagship device was raised.